Why are you here today? What are you getting? I get paid. I can put food on the table. Here are the reasons why I'm here collecting, money. So it's in exchange for something right now. Then you can change that why as you're like, okay, well, I want to own something, or I want to be an investor. I want to do this. Okay. So pivot your why and say, okay, I've got this taken care of. My why is my family.
Yeah. So your why is to help your employees find and improve their whys.
Find and improve their whys. And
that makes his company stronger.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the Flat Bill Investors Podcast. I'm Josh Zaglaski.
I'm Zach Spencer. Welcome. Good afternoon, Josh. Happy to be here with you today. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing a man who I look up to in a lot of ways. First and foremost, it's from his role on Vikings. Not really. Maybe it was Lord of the Rings. He's got 10 years plus real estate experience, works in property management, and does buy and holds, crypto investing. And we've done lots of different things. Has a background as a firefighter and has almost been enveloped in flames. Lots of stories. The flames stuck to his beard. Today we have Corey Bohner. Corey,
well,
CB.
Yes. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, I didn't change the hat. Here, hang on. We're gonna change. We'll go to the Max PM flat bill.
You got it.
Here we go. Okay,
where does Max come from?
It was funny. We were actually Remax Equity, so it was a part of the franchise Remax. And so I was like, all right. We've got to rebrand, and Remax hated having a property management company attached to them with the brokerage. And so we're like, all right, so let's just go to Max. And so we completely rebranded brokerage and everything. So it ended up being Max. We just added 2 X's.
That looks good.
Hat fix good.
Yeah. There you go. We
I'm
like
glad
these ones.
you
We like these ones. These are good.
PM's obviously property management.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start, Corey. Tell us how as you grew up, like what was kind of the direction of that profession, and then what pushed you into a new profession in real estate and property management.
Yeah. Originally from Northern Nevada, grew up in a small town, was aspiring to be a chiropractor like my dad. He had a business. It was great. Learned a lot from him. I was like, all right, I'm going to be a chiropractor. I'm going to go to school. Went to the Bay Area. Was like, hey, I'm going to go to chiropractic school, got everything, got my biology, degrees set up and ready to go. And so I went to the University of Nevada, Reno, and got into it. And I was like, this is not for me. Mm-hmm. And I completely dropped out of college.
The thing about chiropractic too, for people that don't know, it's a lot of school too.
It's a lot.
My nephew's dad, it took him like 12 years, took him a long time. Now he has a successful chiropractic business in San Diego, but I know it's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, you spend at least 8 years. You still got to go pre-med. You still got to, 4 years of chiropractic college. Yeah. It's no different. It's a doctor. It's just different avenue. So I was like, this is not for me. He was not getting paid from insurance companies anymore. I mean, it's kind of the voodoo. I mean, chiropractor's kind of voodoo. That's what people would call it all the time.
I don't know. Yeah.
But hey, I loved it growing up, but it was not for me. So then I jumped into my local fire department was putting on an EMT class. So I took that class and then really started to get to know people. And then I started, hey, this is for me. So chiropractic, medical. So I kind of stuck with that. And then they were offering firefighter courses. And so I started schooling in firefighting, and I got my Fire 2 all the way up to engineer. So I started to run the trucks. Well, got a paid fire job, applied.
Are you in your early 20s at this point?
Yeah, this is early 20s, right before I turned 21. So, I mean, all
starting
those
early.
guys, starting early.
Really, some people even get into it because they're like, oh, I can retire, because it's like a 20-year retirement with firefighting.
Yeah, and it just kind of depends. You retire and you cap out. Like, you want to get that chief position because in your PERS and everything, you're going to tap out.
Gotcha.
And whatever you get that high paid is what you want to retire on. And so, that's the goal, is like you want to be a chief, but the chiefs just sit around and do paperwork, and you're like, I want to go fight fires.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of political stuff too, a little bit with the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's a ton of political stuff. And that's another reason why I over time, I just hated the political part of it. It's like, you have to make this person, you have to kiss this, baby over here.
What do they say? Shake hands and kiss babies?
Yeah.
Or are you kissing hands and shaking babies?
Well, yeah, it's all the above with the cities. And so, I started down that path and, got to the point where I was trading my life, got into multiple scenarios. And one of them was kind of that pivotal moment of saying, this is really, I'd rather not get paid, to go into, a fire and, possibly lose my life. And so it's kind of that change from firefighter. And so then I was like, you know what, this is not the path I'm going to go. And then I just ended my career with that. And then, just went on hiatus for a year to kind of figure out, okay, what's my next move?
That's why I respect a lot of respect all firefighters and cops, because it's a tough job. Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough career for sure. I and I respect people
for
that
the amount you're putting on the line.
We definitely need them.
And I think, boy, they should be paid more. The cops, firefighters, everyone should get paid more.
A lot of we think that. I think a lot of us think that about government employees, teachers, cops, firefighters. It's just definitely don't get paid what they're worth and what they do.
I mean, it's like the military. They just no one gets paid enough to put their life on the line, but yet people do it to save others or So that's what I liked about it. I like to help others. And that was a big push into what I was doing and the reason why.
Then you kind of transitioned. You got to a point at being a firefighter that something happened, and then you told me where you moved to, all that kind of stuff. So why don't you kind of share that as well?
Yeah, Northern Nevada, we had the mountains, so we had Tahoe. Ski. Right. And so I grew up skiing and snowboarding there. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Utah. I've got some family up here, some friends up here. So I'm going to come up here. So after that, I spent a year up here, during the winter time. And I was a ski bum. So I went on the mountains. I just I'm just going to go and I'm going to be by myself. I didn't really care. It was just me, the mountain, my tunes, and I would just fly down the mountain. I knew every ounce of these mountains. And so cool. Spent an entire
year. You had a certain resort you'd go to?
It was Brighton for a while until I just outgrew that resort. And then now that I ski now, because I went to more skiing, I used to snowboard. Yeah. Right? That was the thing to do when you were younger. It's skiing, go to snowboarding.
So now you go to Alta, is what you're saying.
Alta.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I know if you're going to go to Brighton, go 5 more minutes.
Alta is that lost gem here in Utah.
I've never been to Alta, dude. Because I'm up north. But is that the one that is that one of them that is only ski only? Yeah, you can't snowboard.
So that's what I was going to say. I was so proud of my daughter. We're standing in line, and within like 5 minutes, she looks around and she goes, "Dad, there's no snowboarders here. Where are they all at?" And I'm like, "There's not here. They're not allowed." And she was like, "What?"
Oh yeah.
Her mind was blown. But
I took my daughter up there, and we just had a blast going down that mountain. But yeah, Alta. Some of the best snow here in Utah, for sure.
Yeah, great.
Less crowded too. It's just locals kind of feel resort, which is nice.
Where did you start into real estate then?
Growing up, we were all into real estate. Like my dad, took all of these courses and was like, okay, how do you get into investment in real estate? So he owned his businesses and he built them out of homes, right? So he built a chiropractic, office out of a home. We did that multiple times. So we would, refresh these and turn them into businesses, and then he would either sell them or keep them. He had that real estate mentality. Well, I'm going to get all these things. Well, he dealt with the crash as well. So that's where I learned a lot about, hey, how real estate can really just, screw you. It
can turn on a dime, the market.
It took my parents to the long-term renters. They lost everything, lost all their assets and everything, because everything went to adjustable rate mortgages. Yeah. So they lost it all.
Yeah. Crazy.
And so I kind of grew up with knowing real estate, but here in Utah, I jumped in with a property management company here locally, and I was a part of just their maintenance, because I was like, I can do this for now, just kind of a hold to figure out what am I going to do. Got into there and it completely revamped and changed their entire maintenance operation, because I saw the inefficiencies, what I didn't like, what I hated about what they were doing there. And so I'm very organized. I see things and I'm like very organized mentality. And so I would get to see what they were doing, change those processes, and make those systems. And then got to know other owners that had their properties. And I had this group that just were sending a lot of properties as this maintenance. And then come to find out, one of the agents that started this group, he said, well, why don't you join on our team to help this brokerage and get our marketing up? Because I had some marketing, photography, and videography in my background. So I helped create their websites, get their brokerage running. Well, come to find out, the property management company I was with, well, they pissed them off. And they were doing things, telling the investors that they're trying to build a brand and a business over here to scale it. Oh, these are just built like crap. And, well, they were new and they were having some problems, and they were just going through the new stages of new construction. Yeah. Well, they were bashing to the investors. Well, they changed their mind. So we're starting a property management company. Yeah. So they're like, well, how are we going to do this? They hated it. Because if you think about property management, we're talking the bottom level of real estate here. No one wants to touch it or be a part of it. They like the benefits of it. Yeah. But they don't want to be in the operations of property. Yeah,
the operations, the day-to-days, especially with multifam or big multifam, there's just a lot of work. And especially in the maintenance side, you saw that it's a lot of
there's just so many touch points of communication all day long that are going through there. And it's just the bottom.
Especially the type of category from A to D that you deal with. Because I've done apartments and stuff in the past where there was times I would want to do it on my own, but I'd have to, it would be best for me to hire a good company. And when we had that C and D class apartments in Ogden, very sketchy, you know,
You're
and so
like,
you definitely my property manager was packing, you know, to gather rents.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and I know it's a tough job for sure, depending on what class you manage for sure.
Yeah. And so new construction, investors building into these fourplexes, you know, triplexes in communities. And, you know, I helped develop right in the beginning. So they were like, okay, we have this need. So we're going to go and we're going to start a property management company. We don't know anything about it. I don't really care for it, but I was like, hey, I was in a property management company. I saw how I hated the way they were doing things. So I've got this. I'll figure it out. So he's like, okay, you start it. Literally started with 2 doors of his.
Wow.
And said, okay, 2 doors. You've tried to figure this out. So I educated myself. I was grinding, trying to figure out what software am I going to use? What education do I need? Well, I wasn't an agent. I don't know anything about property management. So I literally, you know, spent an entire just year of nonstop education in property management, real estate. What do I got to do to make this thing work? And understanding the software.
Did you just do that like online? Did you take YouTube classes?
Everywhere.
Did you
anywhere I could get into a class? Local NARPM here, apartment associations, anything that was offering any sort of property management, real estate, and getting to know the people here in the market that have been doing it for years. I started to pick their brains. I said, what do you do? What's
I
this?
feel like if you were to just even do that starting today, like let's say I'm like, oh, okay, I want to get into something. If I were to take that and just dive in like that, you'd make connections almost immediately. Do you feel like that kind of launched you in
and
direction?
Just trying to figure out what are they doing? Who is the big players here in this market? And it's kind of a hybrid model of single family, multifamily. I mean, you have the big dogs in multifamily where they're just behemoths, right? They don't play and they don't go to any of these networking or the local markets, right? They're not there. So I spent time with the local people, and I've met a lot of good, and I still have them today, really good, friends, and we play in the same space. We play really well together, right? I give them referrals, I give them deals. If I can't service it the best, I'm going to send it over to these guys. And so I learned, I educated, I tried to figure it out. And then while I'm doing it, I'm the leasing agent, I'm the property manager, I'm the accounts manager. I am every aspect of this. Plus we're doing HOA at the same time. So we're starting an HOA company. We're starting a property management company because they have to be separate. Yeah. And so I was learning everything I possibly could, just taking it in. And so when someone tells me, say, you've got this opportunity, I took it and I was like, I'm going to figure this out because I like a challenge. I like to say, hey, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to do it well. So, fast forward, we're getting in. Okay, now I've got 100 doors. All right, I've got to start finding people to help me out. So
you were still doing it pretty much bootstrapped at 100 doors? Yeah,
I had a pseudo help accountant to try to figure out the software that we use. We use AppFolio and have used it for over 10 years. Yeah. Some of the pivotal stuff that AppFolio has made is because me telling them we got to do this. Because you guys need to do this because we have to have this happen. Right. There's a reason why I haven't moved from them. Pretty much if you're stuck in one thing, just use it. Sometimes it's not always grass is greener over on this side with the other software.
It's also hard to transition, honestly.
Once you're into that software, I totally get that.
Yeah. So I just said, you know what, if you want to listen to me. So I'm on their boards a lot of times of, hey, they talk to me. They say, hey, here's our new stuff. What do you think? So I get to talk with their CEOs and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
That's we've had a relationship for over 10 years. And so they take what we say. Yeah. I'm gaining people. So then I go steal their accounts manager from the other property management company.
Sure, they love that.
They loved it.
They loved you for that.
But you know what? I was like, okay, I need someone to help us grow. They know it really well. They know accounts. They understand it. I need someone to help me because I can't do this all by myself. Yeah, my mind is blowing. I'm really good at communicating with people and getting things moving. But so I needed to start plugging these operational pieces. Now I had help. I had a mentor during this entire time, which was the broker. He's the one that started all this stuff. I saw what he did on the sales side. Yeah. So I mimicked a lot of the, communications with the investors and treat an investor just like a resident. So if you start that communication, you keep that openness when I'm trying to sell a rental to someone, it's no different than an investor selling an investment. Yeah. So you need to treat that very similar. Like they're just a client, just like the investor's a client. I started to use that mentality of treating no different than a resident is no different than our investor. Our investor, I have 2 sides to please here. Yeah. And so we just kept fast forwarding. The developer just took off. They were to sell these fourplex developments, 200-300 doors. Then we got to the point where we'll have management as a requirement for at least the first 2 years. So I'd get instant like 300 doors.
As you acquired new
And
properties.
these are mostly fourplexes, right?
Mostly. So
that's
speckled in there.
75. That's what 75 houses per se that are fourplexes.
Yeah. So
That's a
if
lot.
it was 200 to 300 doors in these developments, and we're having to lease all these out. And so then the problem comes up. Well, what's your fiduciary to all these investors?
Yeah.
Well, where's mine? Why is mine not first? Or like, what's I want mine rented out before the next guy. And so what we did is we made it more of it's like an apartment. We're gonna price them all the same, just because maybe you have some better features into this one.
Sure.
Okay. We're still priced the same, but you might lease out faster. So we try to make this very equal across the board. Hey, highest vacancy goes first. Then we start to work down the line, and it started to really work. So we were able to share kind of like a round robin effect of, hey, you get a lease, you get a lease, you get a lease. But we're in the community.
Sound like Oprah.
Yeah. You get one. You get one.
Yeah. You get a lease. Everybody gets a lease.
It grew like wildfire. And on the side, I'm trying to get these investors in the beginning to buy off on our services. So that's how we grew there. And then we started to mandate property management for the first 2 years, because like, hey, we can stabilize these, see how we do. And we've started to maintain these year over year over year. Investors would sell. I'd get the new people bought in onto our services, because guess what? I've got most of the development. I've got websites built. We own the space. And so we started to continue to grow from year to year. To get to that first 1,000 doors, it was
a heavy
hard.
lift.
It was hard. It's like we were at like 995, and it was just trying to get past that threshold of 1,000 doors. And then once you hit that threshold, you have a whole new operation.
Was there one thing though, as you approached those higher numbers? I mean, you got to think that the systems have to grow continually. Was there a point or a system or a software, something that really opened the door for you to have exponential growth?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to, what communication avenues are working. So we used AppFolio for a lot of it. Then we brought in a CRM that we pioneered to try to build, CRM systems of communication. Hey, automation would come in. And it was really before they come out with all these new like high level and all these really cool CRMs that you can just customize the living crap out of. They didn't have that. So we were trying to bank off of this like HubSpot and build in operational pipelines and flows of automation.
Was this a few years ago?
Yeah, this was like 5 years ago.
Okay.
So we worked with this group, tried to build this in, and then I essentially got to the point where I brought in a developer.
Yeah.
And so now we have a back-end interface that communicates. I mean, we have a proprietary system that maps all of our properties.
Wow,
I know when there's a vacancy, it highlights red. My teams can see it visually, because I was a very visual person. Map 300 doors. Which one's vacant? Well, it's the gray stucco right down the road. So we've been able to map it out. So I could talk to someone, and our teams can talk to someone and know exactly which unit, where it's at, where its location is in comparison to the entire site.
So how many doors are you guys up to now?
So we're over 3,000 doors in 3 different markets.
That's awesome.
It's great. It's fun to get to that point, because it's like most management companies get to that 200 to 500 doors and they just cannot scale.
Yep.
What we did is we just was like, we're going to reinvest back into this and let's scale this thing. Let's keep pushing through instead
do you do everything from home base, or do you have managers?
We
in those
have
local
satellites
markets?
depending on the community. So we've built it kind of like an apartment where there's a leasing office, or it's not leasing anymore. It's more of, I have forward facing, operation people on site where they're not a property manager anymore. We've hub and spoked everything. So we have a leasing department. We have an accounting department. We have, staff and operation department. And then forward facing, our property managers on site are responsible for making sure that the resident feels welcome. They're leasing out the doors. They're managing the actual asset on the property. So they no longer do leasing. They no longer take the calls. They are there to be there for an appointment, to be the forward face of the company for that.
That's
community.
cool. That's awesome. I'm sure there's property managers out here that have 20 or 30 or 8 doors or maybe 100 doors that are going, man, how do I get that next level? Because really there is kind of a bell curve as far as like how many properties you have and your revenue. And there's you have to get to a certain amount of doors before it starts to make sense financially to be a property manager.
Yeah. And you have to reinvest back into your own company. You can't just take the winnings.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to put it back, because if you don't put it back and reinvest into your own systems that you believe in, you can't scale and grow. And a lot of people and a lot of owner operators and management companies, they just don't want to reinvest because they're like, well, that's my money. So you've got to bootstrap for the beginning to get the long rewards at the end as you grow.
Yeah.
Switch gears for a little bit,
Yeah.
Corey. You mentioned that you went skiing with your daughter. Tell us more about your family.
Yeah. So I have my daughter, she's 7. She just turned 7. And then I have a little boy, he's 3. So I
Nice.
started a little later in life,
Hey.
and which was great. I knew what I wanted, and I found a partner. My wife, Chelsea, she is, like I've heard you guys say before, you find that person, and that person understands you, and you're in it together, no matter what it is.
Sure.
Like, I've got to be at work. I've got to do this. You've got this handled, right? So
Every dynamics.
I've got 2 kids, and I love them dearly.
That's awesome.
There's another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. It is a why factor.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that a little bit, but we haven't even asked, like what your superpower is.
Yeah.
And you alluded earlier to that your superpower all is fueled by your why, and that why has changed. Explain a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I always have come up to, why do I wake up in the morning? I'm always just like, okay, if I'm going to wake up this morning, I better give it my all, because I might as well just stay in bed.
Yeah.
And so, and I kind of preach a lot of this to my teams and, people that I talk with, and, what is your why?
Mm-hmm.
You have to identify your why, because if you're not waking up every day and understand what your why is, then I don't know how you're going to succeed.
How do you help your team understand their why? What do you do to help train them on that? Because I have an idea with that.
Yeah. So a lot of the times when I speak to my team, I say, because there's very specific, right? I mean, property management, it's not like a sexy business. And,
Yeah.
you've got to find the right people, and this might be a stepping stone for someone else. So their
Just
why,
like it was for you.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so their why are you here today? What are you getting? I get paid. I can put food on the table. Here are the reasons why I'm here collecting, money. So it's in exchange for something right now.
Yeah.
So my current why for them is like, what is your current why? And then you can change that why as you're like, okay, well, I want to own something, or I want to be an investor. I want to do this. Okay. So pivot your why and say, okay, I've got this taken care of. My why is my family.
Yeah. So your why is to help your employees find and improve their whys.
Find and improve their whys. And
That makes his company stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
That culture's that's got to be pretty thick in there.
yeah, I mean, we try. Everyone, we try to work on culture. I mean, that's the whole thing, is like, I want to find avenues and ways to pay people more. And hey, in order to pay people more, we need more doors, or we need more avenues of revenue,
Yeah.
or let's find some efficiencies where we have less vacancies, so that, hey, all that comes back in to get you to that next step. And so we want to create that lifelong step where we want people longer than just a year.
Yeah.
And, property management in general is just high turnover.
It's a buy-in. It's a buy-in for sure.
Tons of attrition too.
It does start from the top, and trickles down. I've talked about this in other podcasts and episodes, but I had a company ERC specialist that we had up to 280 employees, and it was me coming in and other partners of mine coming in and motivating the team, and then disseminating that throughout other people, and it made a great culture, and they were bought in. They wanted to be there.
That's awesome.
They knew their role. And once they kind of understood that to the why piece too, is our mutual friend, Sean Finnegan.
Yeah.
I used to consult for a company that he used to have 15 years ago. And one of the things that they had this exercise, and I can send it to you, but they would have people, it was 7 blank items, but it's basically just, people would walk in and says, why do you want to be successful? To make more money. Well, why do you want to make more money? To get out of debt. Well, why do you want to get out of debt? And it just keeps on deeper and deeper to doing something for their church or their community or whatever. But it does start with money to get that more time.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're building, that culture, is perfect to have them understand it. And even then, I would have students, I said, take this, put it on your bulletin board or whatever, so you can see that. And what level are you at? And you're almost to level 7. It's the 7th level is the biggest one.
Yep. Are you still focused on just these top 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you a question. We're running a little low on time.
Yeah.
But I know you came prepared with a question that I like to ask, which is, as you've gone through this and you've gone, taken these life lessons and you're still learning. I know all 3 of us here are big readers and love to read inspirational books, motivational books, or listen. I say read. I say read.
I like to get the book to put in my back shelf, but
we all know we got that Audible
I'm now
account
doing something new. Actually, I'm actually buying the book and I'm listening to it as I'm looking at it. I'm actually getting more retaining and stuff
I'm
like
way
that.
better at that. It helps me out. But what's a book or two that you would suggest for somebody listening who's going, man, I'd love to grab a book off the shelf, or on Audible.
Yeah. There's so many, right? And so you were saying like what you were talking about, that higher up, that Good to Great, the book Good to Great.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a fantastic book. And that kind of falls into like,
That's a great book.
Yeah.
Good to Great's awesome.
Good to Great. And then Extreme Ownership in the same kind of.
That's a great one too.
Same
And when you get
things.
the audio, you get the Jocko Willink.
Jocko. Yeah.
Blue on blue on.
That is the cool thing
it's
about audio.
Ramadi.
Yeah.
7
you get
a.m.
that. So those were impactful at certain times. And how do I build a company and organization that is great and taking ownership of anything that I do? Because we make thousands of decisions a day.
Yeah.
Right. And our decisions could be a wrong one, but do we own up to the mistake that we may have made in that decision? And how do you move forward in that? So it's trying to find that balance of like, you know what, I own up to everything I do. If I screw up, that investor should have gotten something, or that resident should have gotten something. Okay, it's our bad. Let's fix it and move on. So I think extreme ownership is a good motivator, but also like trying to think about, okay, I need to just kind of step back and go, yeah, I screwed up. And I wish more people would just say, you know what, just own up to the decision that you made.
Yeah. I haven't written it down, but I probably have 20 books that I think are recommended almost every other year, or maybe even yearly. And these are two of them for sure.
Yeah.
You know, re-listen to
so
them.
many.
Yeah.
Well,
There's a lot.
And their second one even is, almost just as good.
Yeah.
So
I've read all those ones. And they're great. So,
well, I appreciate you making the decision to come here today.
Yeah,
That was a good decision for all of us.
Thank you for the invite. It's good to meet you and where we've been at. And I hope, again, we got a great group of people that you've got coming through here. I had to binge all of these because I was like, I want to know all these great people. That
I appreciate that.
Here, so.
I appreciate that. You're one of our 5 listeners, and it doesn't go unnoticed.
It's okay. It's on my. We
hope everyone else can binge.
Yep.
No, you guys do great, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Appreciate you, man. Well, until next week, invest in your future.
Invest in yourself.
This is the Flat Bill Investors Podcast, signing off.